You think you know what an atomic bomb does. You've seen the black and white footage, the mushroom cloud, the flattened cities. But what you've never been told is what it feels like to be standing underneath it, what it does to your skin, your eyes, your very cells. Now, imagine surviving that. Imagine being cooked alive by a man-made sun, being shredded by a supersonic shockwave, and living to tell the tale. Sounds impossible, right? Well, buckle up, because the story of Tsutomu Yamaguchi is so much worse and so much more unbelievable than you could imagine. This isn't just a story of a man who survived an atomic bomb. This is a story of a man who, through some cosmic cruel joke, did it twice. You are about to learn what it feels like when the world ends, and you're the only one left to remember it. These are the details they conveniently leave out of the history books. The gruesome reality of a body that simply refused to die. It was a perfectly normal morning. August 6, 1945. 29-year-old Tsutomu Yamaguchi was in Hiroshima on a business trip, about to head home. He was just under 2 miles from a spot on the map he didn't even know existed, a spot that would later be called Ground Zero. At 8:15 a.m., he looked up at the sky, and the world disappeared. It wasn't a sound. It was a light, a silent, blinding magnesium flash that bleached the world white. For a split second, he was completely blind. At the same instant, he felt a heat so intense it was like being pushed into a furnace. The bomb's thermal rays, moving at the speed of light, began to cook him from the outside in. Before his brain could even register the pain, the shockwave arrived. A wall of force moving faster than sound hit him. It didn't just push him, it lifted him, spun him through the air like a rag doll, and slammed him into the dirt. When he came to, the world was gone. The sun was blotted out by a cloud of dust and debris. His eardrums were ruptured. The entire left side of his body was a single, searing burn. His skin was already blistering, peeling away from the muscle underneath. He was alive, but he was in hell. This wasn't a city anymore. It was a nightmare landscape. The buildings were skeletal remains. The rivers were clogged with bodies. But the worst part was the people. He saw things that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Figures stumbling through the smoke, their skin hanging off their bodies in strips like melted wax. People with their arms outstretched, begging for water that didn't exist. He saw shadows burn onto stone walls, the final, carbonized imprints of human beings who had been vaporized where they stood. Somehow, through the pain and the horror, he found his 2 colleagues. Wounded, burned, and deafened, he made a decision that sealed his fate. He had to go home. Home to Nagasaki. He dragged his ruined body to a train station and boarded a car packed with other burned, bleeding survivors. For 24 hours, he traveled away from the apocalypse, thinking the worst was over. He couldn't have been more wrong. On August 9th, Yamaguchi, wrapped in bandages and oozing fluid from his burns, limped into his office in Nagasaki. He was trying to describe the indescribable to his boss. A single bomb, he explained, that had erased the city. His boss called him mad. He was describing the white flash, the deafening boom, when it happened again. Through the office window, the world once again turned stark, silent white. The same impossible flash. The same feeling of being lit up from the inside. He dropped to the floor a split second before the shockwave hit, shattering the windows and blasting the office apart. His fresh bandages were ripped from his body by the force of the blast. The other side of his body was now peppered with new wounds. He had been struck by a second man-made sun. He was now, quite possibly, the unluckiest man who had ever lived. The burns and the blast wounds were just the beginning. The real horror was just getting started, deep inside his cells. Yamaguchi had just received a second massive dose of ionizing radiation. His body began to fall apart from the inside out. His hair fell out in clumps. Horrific purple spots, a sign of internal bleeding, erupted all over his skin. He began vomiting uncontrollably. For weeks, he hovered on the edge of death, his body waging a war against an invisible poison that was rewriting his DNA. He survived, but he was no longer just a man. He was a living testament, a human archive of the atom's fury, a man whose body contained the memory of 2 nuclear apocalypses. His legacy isn't just that he survived. It's a masterclass in the sheer, stubborn refusal of the human body to be destroyed. If this unbelievable story of human survival made you question everything you thought you knew about history, maybe hit that subscribe button, because there are plenty more horrifying truths that the textbooks conveniently leave out. And trust me, you haven't heard anything yet.